Did you ever feel like you didn't belong?
Within the Black community, there were times, and I think there still are times where I feel othered. I don't know that there's an actual, othering from other people to me, but I feel like there's this piece of me that's like, but I'm Afro Latino, I'm not Black American. Do I have do I have the right to speak on, or am I do I have the place to speak
Mhm.
on the issues that are happening here? I feel the answer is yes, but always in the back of my mind, there's that question.
I wonder because I just kind of like unpacked this. I was unpacking this with Julie, but I never felt like I belonged growing up.
Mm,
And I think partially because I never had that, like I never actually felt like I belonged to my dad in a weird way. And so I think it set me up for something. And then we experienced a lot of like racism. We were immigrants. I would get called weird names at school, and then my mom was kind of clueless. So I'd come home and she'd be like, "Oh, they like you," but so it was like really funny. um, but it sort of created this thing in me where I think I developed such like a huge dislike for white people and for Americans that I was like, where am I going to go where white people aren't accepted and where nobody cares about white people? And it was with Black people. And so I kind of found my refuge in the Black community. So from the time I was really young, it's like I only had Black friends, and I loved being around that community. And it was kind of the place where I felt like I belonged, but I never really belonged there either because I'm not Black. So it's kind of this interesting thing. And I think that's why culture is so important, because it doesn't really matter where you're from per se, but it's what you experience because of what you look like, and even the music that you're into. Like if I hadn't been into hip hop, my life would have been completely different. It changed the trajectory. It's like what I found, again, like where I found refuge, because of whatever I was going through individually. So I think it's such a huge part of like where you go to find yourself, like who you see yourself in, or where you find hope, or where you can escape from pain, or like who you feel really gets you and understands you.
I really related to what you said, Melody, about finding refuge in hip hop. And I tend to skate over this a lot, and I realize that I do that is, there was definitely a lot of pain as in my early childhood from white Australians. And that would be probably the ages of 6, 7, 8 years old. And I'm a darker brown than my sister. I'm darker than my sister. She's much fairer than me. And I remember I have a very distinct memory of coming home in tears, crying and saying to my sister, I want to be your color. Why aren't I your color? Because being teased for being brown and called all sorts of names, those kids didn't know what to call me, so they would call me derogatory terms for Aboriginal people here in Australia. And it was so much of that. And then it was also go back to your own country and in you wog and all of these terms that really hurt. And I noticed that my sister was not teased in the same way that I was. So I noticed it was because of the color of my skin. Mm. I feel like I carried that with me. And as I started, I felt like I fell in love with hip hop around the age of 13, 14. White people listen to rock music. They were not part of hip hop and R&B, So as I matured, being around other ethnic folks, like the hip hop community and the R&B clubs and that in Sydney was made up of people of color. So it was the non-white space and it felt safe.
Yes.
I didn't articulate that to myself at the time. It's just what I was attracted to. But now reflecting back, I'm like, that's why I fell in love with that culture, the music. And yes, listening to artists as a teenager like Naughty by Nature and Ice Cube and Salt and Pepper. It was like, oh, this angst that whatever I had inside me was like able to be expressed. And so I started writing my own rhymes at 15. And, you know, that was how I would process what I was feeling. And that's where I stayed, you know, as an adult. And yeah, so I definitely relate in terms of finding refuge within hip hop.
And I think that's where we get our identity, is the first experience you have when somebody sees you, but sees your soul, doesn't see your skin or your culture or any other thing, and sees you. That's the moment you're like, I want that. That's what I am. I'm going to be about that. My husband is Black from the south side of Chicago, from the complete reverse side. Like when we met, we got very, very close and strong. And he said to me, I'm so sorry, but you will never meet my family.
Because he didn't want you to. Is that why?
They would not allow a white person to be in their home. More important, whatever level of white or non-white I am is not relevant. I'm not Black. And so I'm not part of their world pain and cultural experience. And they were political. They were political people. And his grandmother ran for alderman. There's no way, he said, you're ever going to be allowed in that house. And he said, I'm frankly not going to tell them about you. So you should know that now. Because I don't know how you're going to feel about that down the road. So I really think that we don't understand like how many people grew up in this environment that doesn't allow them to be something other than that. And it's not due to anything other than that. So every time we have an opportunity, you know, it hopefully doesn't make us attach that to ourselves as an identity, but rather an understanding, oh, the world has been locked down this long.
Yeah, I think so. It has to be an understanding. And, you know, you have to be able to find your identity, like you said, in the places where you feel seen, and to not take on the weight of others' feelings or misgivings or infirmities. Like that's a lot of the work that we have to do as adults, is try to, you know, avoid that the weight of other people's problems on us, and just recognize like they're going through their transformation. Maybe one day they'll make it in this lifetime, maybe not this lifetime.